Welcome back to today's Southwest Yard and Garden. I'm Curtis Smith. Today we're visiting with Willie West, a landscape and irrigation contractor in the Albuquerque area. Willie, can you tell us about lawn irrigation systems and the various components of these systems?
I'd be happy to, Curtis. To start off any good irrigation system, we really should have a digital controller. City of Albuquerque's ordinance now requires all controllers that are being installed to be digital with an A/B program. We're going to go into that a little bit more later. What the controller does is it actually controls the zones that are coming on to water to turf areas. Now the way we do that is with this little setup here. There's a wire that runs from this, which is called your valve, back to your controller. The controller tells the valve to activate. The valve lets the water go through a backflow preventer. Okay? Backflow preventer is required by state code. From here, it goes through to your piping and out to your various sprinkler heads. Some of you have the regular spray type sprinkler heads that just spray in a set pattern. Some of you have rotary type heads. There's a wide variety available on the market. Hunter, Toro, Rainbird, plus the various ones we can get from our local suppliers. All of them are pretty good heads. They all have their advantages and disadvantages, but the key point is that they all should be the same. If you have a Toro head system, it all needs to be Toro. Sprays need to be separate from rotors.
Willie, I noticed that we have backflow preventers here and we have some further up the hill. Now, why do we have these in different locations?
Curtis, these are AVB, atmospheric vacuum breakers. These are used on individual valves only, and they must be located 6 inches above the highest point of use. These three backflows down here control just this lower area. Those two up there with the valves that control the upper area.
And so each one is within code and above this area, the sprinkler head that's attached to them.
Correct.
Willie, what's the importance of the backflow preventer? So it's so important that there are ordinances and laws regarding these.
Curtis, what the backflow preventer does is it prevents any contaminants from coming back into your water supply from your lawn area. Things such as herbicides, pesticides, any other chemicals that you may apply to your lawn. What could possibly happen if these are not installed correctly, or if we have what's called a back siphoning situation where water pressure in your home drops and water is sucked back in out of your system, these contaminants can get into your domestic water supply. Granted, most times it's going to be in small enough quantities that's not going to hurt you, but there are chances that it could seriously get you sick or kill you.
So it's a good idea to obey the ordinances and have these installed properly.
Yes, it is.
One of the components of an irrigation system you mentioned was the timer, the controller. Now, a lot of people have trouble with these things. Can you show us some different types of controllers and tell us how each works, the advantages and disadvantages?
Sure, I'd be happy to. These are just some of the controllers that we got from some of my local suppliers. Very simple 4-station, 6-station, all the way up. This is a 36-station controller, which would be found on a large commercial site, not necessarily a home. Actually, these are very simple. The manufacturers have done a real good job of toning down the complexity of programming these. You not only have the instructions on the door, but the owner's manuals are very, very simple now. And they're real easy to program. Granted, they're not quite as simple as these older type. These are old mechanical timers. What you had to do, all you had to do to adjust these is just turn these little knobs and listen for the clicks, pull pins out, push pins in. These timers are not allowed in Albuquerque anymore on any new installations. The reason for that is twofold. One, you cannot water your turf systems and your drip systems separately. In other words, if you want to water your turf 4 times a week, you have to water your drip 4 times a week instead of once or twice a week. The other problem with this is they're very unreliable. When you go to set the time, you have no idea. If you set it for 5 minutes, it could be 5 minutes, could be 3, could be 30 minutes. They're not real precise. That's one of the main reasons why these were done away with. If you still have one of these, they're probably still working because they don't break down. However, for the cost of an investment of a newer type controller to replace this older one, I think you'll recoup that money very quickly just in water savings because of the inefficiency of these.
I've noticed that most of the controllers sold these days have a dual programming mode. Can you tell us about that, and is it required?
Yeah, Curtis, in the city of Albuquerque, in their water ordinance, any new controllers that are installed now must have what's called an AB program, an AB or a Program 1, Program 2. The purpose of that is, let's say you have 3 turf zones and 1 drip zone, and you want to water your turf 5 days a week, you want to water your drip once a week. What you can do is on the A program or Program 1, you can set your turf zones up to water the way you want them to water. Then you can switch over to the B program or Program 2 and do your drip completely separate from the Program A that you just did with your turf. So that way you're getting the right amount of water to the various plant materials that you have.
You mentioned that you can have different turf and drip zones. It could be the 2 of one and 2 of the other, or 3 of one. Is it okay for them to be timed together?
Curtis, the reason you can't combine drip and turf together is a couple different reasons. One, turf type sprinkler heads put out in gallons per minute, anywhere from 1 to 4 gallons per minute. Most drip emitters in a drip system put out in gallons per hour, from 0.5 to 4 gallons per hour. So obviously you have a different amount of water going down from the 2 different systems. The other reason then becomes that most plants that you're applying drip to don't need as much water as your bluegrass lawn or your fescue lawns. So you don't want to water them as much. If they're tied together, you are overwatering your shrubs to meet the requirements of your turf.
Well, here's the part of an irrigation system that's obvious to everyone, the sprinklers themselves.
Right.
I see there's a lot of variety here. Willie, can you tell us about these, their advantages, disadvantages, and such?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Really what we have over on this end are some of the different rotary type heads, the ones that oscillate back and forth. In the larger turf settings, these are an ideal candidate to use because that way you can use less number of zones if you use these. Over on this side we have different spray heads, different manufacturers, different sizes of spray heads. Really, for the most purposes in turf, I like to use the 4-inch pop-up. That way if your grass grows 3 inches during the week before you get around to mowing it, the head's still going to pop up high enough to clear that grass. Now a real common one that's still around in Albuquerque a lot and in New Mexico is these old brass ones. Believe it or not, these old brass ones actually wear faster than the plastic ones, mainly because of the mineral content of our water. The other disadvantage to these as well is that they just don't pop up very high. So if you don't get around to mowing your grass as often as you'd like, you end up with these brown spots because your sprinkler has been blocked by the grass.
With all this variety, with these rotaries, the spray heads and such, can these be mixed in the same lawn?
No, Curtis, they really can't be. The reason for that, let's take these two. This is a small rotary type head that we would use typically in a homeowner situation. And this is a spray head. What a spray head does is sprays in a set area, usually between 12 and 15 feet, sometimes less, and evenly distributes water over that area the whole time it's on. A rotary type head such as this rotates back and forth, and it usually covers anywhere from 18 to 30 feet out from the head. So it's covering a much larger area. If you were to have these two tied together, this one would be soaking its small area, while this one would be struggling to keep up with the much larger area that it's being required to water.
So you've got to have everything matched appropriately for the size area.
That's correct.